Catholic schools in the inner city, some of the poorest neighborhoods in New York. And we went there because they were getting some of the best test scores in New York, and they were spending 25% of what the public schools were spending. And so they're giving me a tour through the schools, and you know, I'm from Washington, and I'm here to help, right? I'm a congressman. And I say, you know, do you use our diversity programs? And they kind of look at me and say, well, Congressman, if you look, it's kind of like today, you look across our students, we've got Hispanics, we've got African Americans, Caucasians. We don't talk about how our kids are different from each other. We talk about what brings us together. I said, oh, okay, thanks. I said, well, how about self-esteem? Do you use our self-esteem programs? And they said, well, actually, Congressman, we approach this from a faith-based standpoint. We just teach our kids that when they wake up in the morning and they look in the mirror, we just tell them, remember, what you see in the mirror is you're created in the image of God. We don't think there's a whole lot more that we can teach them about self-esteem if they come to our school during the day and they realize, I'm created in the image of God. That's not a bad deal. I said, okay, it's time for me to, but what I did find out is that as Protestants and Catholics, we have so much more in common than whatever divided us. So I go to Cleveland, my education tour, right? And we're there and we're in a school and you learn about the passion. And in Cleveland, some of the public schools in the inner city are some of the worst schools in the country. So you go in and as we're leaving, the mom comes up to me and she grabs my arm and she says, Congressman, you need to help me. Well, as a conservative and as a Republican, I'm believing that education is primarily a state responsibility. I said, well, I don't know what I can do. You know, this is really, she says, well, my son, you know, he's failing in school, or the school is failing. He's in a failing school. Okay, she said, and the school came to me 5 years ago and said, we've got a 5-year plan to fix our schools. She said after 2 years, the schools were worse. And they said, don't worry, we've got a plan to fix them. She says, now the school is even worse than what it was before. Provide me the help and the opportunity. Because once again, they've come back and said, don't worry, we've got a plan to fix the schools. And then she said, the scary thing is, you know, if someone doesn't provide me help, I'm in danger of losing my kids. That is why parents have the passion for their kids that the bureaucrats don't. That is why when we see things going on in our schools that are contrary to what we used to see and what we want to see and contrary to what we're teaching at home, we're concerned. That's what this election, I think, is really about. There's lots of issues on the ballot. I can talk about foreign policy for a long time. I could talk about a lot of other things. But I think the one thing that's uniting us across the board is the passion that we have for America and the passion that we have for our children, and to make sure that they are prepared and that they will have the dream and the vision and the opportunities that we have. Thank you very much for coming out today and do what you can to help.
This is also Ambassador's birthday today. have Dr. Sherry Tenpenny here with us this morning. Dr. Sherry Tenpenny is an osteopathic medical doctor from Cleveland, Ohio. Her board certification includes emergency medicine and osteopathic manual medicine. She has dedicated her medical practice to the delivery of effective and alternative treatments for quality of life complaints in children and adults. Her clinic, Tenpenny Integrative Medical Center, has restored the health of patients who have come from more than 39 states and 11 countries. Dr. Tenpenny's larger mission is to deliver credible information about the integrative medicine and vaccines that is little reported in the mainstream media, combined with practical tips for natural health and healing. Help me welcome Dr. Tenpenny.
Hello, everyone. And I am from Cleveland. I drove all the way up here today. It's about 2.5, 3 hours for me to get up here because when we met in Pennsylvania last weekend, and I heard about Prop 3, I said, I'll throw my hat in that ring even though I'm an Ohioan. Because if that gets passed here in Michigan, we know where it's going to go next, right? It will go all across the country, and it's just a disaster. So across the U.S. in 26 states are likely to ban or restrict abortions after the Roe v. Wade ruling in June 24th of 2022, which, by the way, did not make abortion illegal throughout America, just sent the decision back to the states. Taking a different posture, California immediately positioned itself to be a sanctuary state to support access to abortion. The state is preparing to welcome and support women from all across the country who seek to terminate their pregnancy. If passed, Prop 3 will essentially do the same thing for Michigan. Michigan will become a sanctuary state for abortion for its own citizens, allowing the murder of unborn and even newly born children. Now, Prop D's only got like 5 sections, but I think this is really important and kind of what I wanted to talk about. The state may regulate the provision of abortion care after fetal viability, which I'll address that in just a minute. But provided there is no circumstance, shall the state prohibit an abortion that in the professional judgment of the attending professional. In California, they're now allowing nurse practitioners that get trained to do abortions. But if it's medically indicated to protect the life or physical or mental health of a pregnant individual. So if somebody's having a bad day, they could just decide to have an abortion. What is this whole concept of fetal viability? At 24 weeks, the chance of normal survival is about 50%. After this, the odds are in favor of a normal survivor. Prop 3 is advocating for abortions after week 24, after 6 months of gestation. Prop 3 will prevent the state from penalizing, prosecuting, or taking any adverse actions against an individual who chooses to terminate a pregnancy, even at the point of birth. Prop 3 will allow doctors to become murderers, and Prop 3 encourages mothers to kill their own children if they're having a bad day. And that creates abortion on demand at any age. What are medical repercussions of abortion? Does anybody ever talk about that? I mean, what happens long term if a woman decides to terminate her pregnancy for whatever reason? There are 3 longitudinal studies that were done in New Zealand, Norway, and the United States that measured health outcomes of the woman after an abortion. All 3 studies found significant increases in addictive disorders, including depression, thoughts of suicide, anxiety, and abuse of illicit drugs, marijuana, and alcohol. Prop 3 will also give every individual the right for an effectuate decision of their sexuality. California also became a sanctuary state for transgender modifications. Will Michigan do the same? You know, in California, the state reps there, the California legislator put over 1,100 bills on Newsom's desk, and he signed 997 of them. And two of the categories that they are really are promoting there are the right to any abortion at any age, and then this whole transgender issue, which is done without parental consent. And if a child comes from some other part of the country and goes to California and wants to undergo a transgender sexual change, boy to girl or girl to boy, they become relatively wards of the state. And if their parents show up and say, want to grab them by the nape of the neck and drag them home, they are not allowed to. Parents can be arrested and put in jail. This transgender thing is this coming next to Michigan through Prop 3. California became a sanctuary state for this transgender modifications. It's estimated that 1.4 million individuals, 1.4 million, what's our population here? 332 million, but who's driving the agenda? 1 million people who identify as transgender are driving the moral compass away from God, away from what we respect of each other and respect in our individual faith. They're driving 1 million people are taking the other 332 million down a very ugly path. The World Professional Association for Transgender Health has said life-altering hormonal treatments could start as young as 14 years of age, and surgeries should be performed on children as young as 15. The group acknowledges the potential risk, but says that it is unethical and harmful to withhold these treatments. Critics, including those who have undergone transgender treatments, say that clinics, medical clinics, and now state governments are too quick to offer irreversible treatments to children, many of whom would outgrow or grow past their gender issues as they matured. Now, how many girls in here at one point in time would have labeled themselves a tomboy, right? Basketball, baseball, going out and play with all the boys in the neighborhood, getting on our bikes and riding. I mean, did that mean we wanted to be boys? I don't think so. How many boys actually like children and like to play with other little girls, like normally? I mean, we're not talking about, hanky-panky. Did that mean that they wanted to be girls? No, I don't think so. And how many boys, like in school, wanted to go up to the girls and pull their pigtail or pinch them in the butt? Did that mean that suddenly they wanted to be something different? I don't think so. So these critics are really the ones who've said, if we just waited, that many of these kids would outgrow this thing. And because so many of our children now have become gender confused, one can kind of wonder where's that coming from? Where is that driving from? Well, a lot of you know me, and you know that the big thing that I've talked about for the last 22 years since September of 2000 is problems associated with vaccines. I mean, I've written several books on it. I speak at conferences all over the world about it. I've written hundreds of articles, and I've literally done thousands of interviews in the last 20 years. And there are some people who are starting to write about the fact that many of these childhood vaccines have cells of aborted fetal tissues in them. The COVID shots are made from cells of aborted fetal tissue, and those cells have a full set of female chromosomes in them, being injected into little boys. Is there anything there? I think that somebody needs to investigate that, because suddenly it seems like we have a whole generation of kids that are gender confused. Did that just start from games? We don't really know, but we do believe that there is something to the fact that we are putting male hormones or male chromosomes into girls and girls' chromosomes into boys from a very early age. So let me just briefly mention two studies that highlight the problems associated with hormonal transformation of children who want to change their sexual identity. In September of 2020, an article was published in the Journal of Neuropsychopharmacology described the behavioral ramifications of puberty suppression in young individuals. There was a study that was done with mice, and that they showed that these mice went through gender confusion, that when they were given hormonal suppression to male mice, they were more attracted to male mice. When they gave it a hormonal suppression to little girl mice, the girl mice got very depressed, had a lot of anxiety, and wouldn't interact with any of the other mice in the cage. The study done on both male and female mice showed that the use of hormonal blockers after the onset of sexually defined puberty. I mean, the girls suddenly started having periods, and the boys, started to change and have puberty as male mice do. I mean, how do they tell that? I don't know. I mean, in kids, they grow tall, their voice changes, and they get body hair. How do you tell that in male mice? I don't know. But they were able to tell that. But if they do this sexual change and this hormonal change after puberty sets in, multiple adverse events on the brain function, sexual preference gets stronger. And they all showed sign of hyperactivity and anxiety, and they were nervous. In a separate study of 85 individuals, these were humans now, that were enrolled in a study where they used Lupron, which is an injectable hormone, to suppress hormones. The average age of the girls in the study was 14.5 years, and the average age of the boys was 13.9. The side effects of the hormones included hot flashes, mood swings, and weight gain in both genders. All symptoms worsened after puberty and sex-appropriate hormones began to be produced internally. They are using studies like this, and these are two tiny little examples that I just shrunk down on the abstract, to justify hormonal manipulation at children at 10 and 11 years of age. Because if they do the transformation before they undergo their normal body puberty, the girls start to become girls, and the boys start their periods, and boys start to do all the facial hair and all these different things. They have lots of side effects, and they don't want to maintain being on the hormonal suppressive therapies. So they're using these things to convince children, 10 years of age. 10 years of age. I have trouble when kids are 18 years of age that we want them to go to college and expect them to know what they're supposed to do the whole rest of their life. How do kids that are 10 years of age know that they were born the wrong gender? This is the type of thing that's going on in the medical community and in that 1.4 million people that identify as transgenders that are driving this agenda. Now, I don't know about how many Michigan legislators are physicians, pharmacists, nurses, or have some other medical background. But even if there are only a few, they should be reading the medical literature and educating their colleagues on the long-term ramifications of abortion and gender transformation in children. Promoting murder on demand of the unborn, they will have blood on their hands for all of eternity. In the Christian Bible, there is in the book of Proverbs 6 verses 16 through 19 clearly spells out the evil of this proposed legislation. The Lord, and this I'm just going to read it because it's short. The Lord hates 6 things. 7 are detestable to him. Haughty eyes, which is pride, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, those that perform the abortions and advocate for them, a heart that devises wicked plans. Yes, the legislators who drafted this. Feel feet that run rapidly to evil. Your colleagues, friends, neighbors who will vote to pass this. A false witness of utter lies, and one who spreads rumors among his brothers. Those are the things that in the Old Testament, in the book of Proverbs, it says that God hates. God hates hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked plans, feet that run rapidly toward evil. Prop 3 is dangerous for parental rights, religious liberties, and medical prosecutorial rights. Worst of all, Prop 3 states that if any provisions are held to be invalid in a court, the other provisions would still remain. This is an amendment to your state constitution. It is permanent and will never go away. Prop 3 is dangerous for parents, it's dangerous for children, it's dangerous for the unborn. It's dangerous for the state of Michigan, it's dangerous for all of your cultures, it's dangerous for our society, because if this gets passed, you know other states will want to do the same thing. You have a right to decide whether you wake up on November 9th with a better Michigan where you shut this down, or a Michigan that has been radically changed and transformed. From 2020 to 2021, there were 249,000 people that left California. Most likely, the exodus has just begun. Will Michigan experience the same fate? November 8th, Vote no to protect human life in all of its forms. Vote no to protect the vulnerable, the children, and the unborn. Vote no to protect our country. We don't want this legislation rolling across. Think what this will do to every state in the union. It sets a precedent. May God bless you. May God protect every person that's here. I was adopted, not aborted. I love that sign. That's amazing. Thank you for everybody. Thank you so much for your attention.
The next speaker will be Mark Horton. Mark worked for 35 years with Chrysler and is currently the chairman for the Macomb County. Help us welcome to the stage, Mark Horton.
Hello, everybody. By a show of hands, how many have children or grandchildren? I don't know how to follow this wonderful lady. The whole goal is what draws us together, what keeps us together. Well, a good place to start is our children, naturally. They went too far this time. I first got involved in 1988, and for 30 years I've slowly watched the slow creep of socialism in my state. I've watched our legislature become nothing, and so on and so forth, and we have to change that. I believe that what brings us together is something that very few of us know much about, especially our elected officials, and that is the Constitution of the United States. I've got a couple short things. I'm going to go on quickly. I only have a few minutes. However, our Bill of Rights, I'm going to read Article 1 because nobody reads the whole thing. Very short. The Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Our government is prohibiting the free exercise of our religion. The government is attacking our children. In Washington, we have the Department of Education, an unconstitutional body put together by Jimmy Carter's administration in the 1970s. It must go. We've got to return to this. Your children belong to you, not the government. When you go to a school board, that school board is supposed to represent you, not the Teachers Association or NEA. And the majority of half of our elected officials are all tied up with the MEA. I don't care if you talk about Republican or Democrat. My vice chair and I, Lisa Mankiewicz, for 2 years we determined our children have had enough, and we're going to win for our children, and we're not going to bend and we're not going to break. And the whole thing is this. It's got us in a whole lot of trouble. Now this Constitution, if I can get to the beginning real quick and just read the beginning of it, another very short statement. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. That's our children and grandchildren in the future. Do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. The people of the United States in the end of the 1700s voted for this. It's we the people. They all work for us. We have to demand that they step aside, or we have to run for school boards, public office. Don't say you can't do it, because we've been dealing with a whole lot of elected officials, and I'm telling you what, everybody here can do that job. All right? So our Constitution brings us together, yet we have a government that keeps trying to divide us over and over again. And right now we're right at the edge of the cliff. They are taking our children. like it was said by one of the speakers, this 5-year plan. That's 5 years. That's a first grader graduates from 5 years of this garbage before their plan is finished. In their plan, they have no intention. Their plan is to make America and Michigan a socialist state, and we're not going to let it happen. Because we're going to take back our children, we're going to take back our schools. It's not their schools. They don't have authority over us. This is a republic. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. It is mentioned, it's a republic. We're not a democracy, we're a republic. We elect these people to represent us in office. And we better start paying attention to who we're electing. Because since we are a republic, we're responsible for everything they do. We're responsible for all this debt. Because we legally elected them to represent us, and they have us so far in debt, they could wipe out everything. 401ks, IRAs, Social Security. We owe the debt. Because we're a republic. Anyway, I want to thank all of you for being here. I want to thank you for the honor of us being able to address you, because you people in Dearborn are heroes to us in Macomb County. You really are. You guys are standing up here at the tip of the spear in education. We need you to stand strong for your children. God bless everyone. Thank you.
Yes, you guys are heroes. And we have officials that are here with us today, and we need to get every single one of them in office. We're going to work together to get every single one of them in office. Our next speaker is Tammy Carlone, Tamara. Tamara is a brilliant and intelligent young lady who genuinely cares for the welfare of others. This is very true. She is a very hard worker and has been fighting for our kids and countries for 22 years. Tamara is recognized at the national, state, and local levels as an expert in education due to her timeless work to stop the inappropriate teachings in our schools and to return our schools to academic excellence. She knows exactly what our schools need in order to best serve our children. She used education to rise out of a tough childhood in Flint, Michigan. She became an accomplished CPA and process improvement expert after earning a degree in business from the University of Michigan. She raised 2 great, beautiful children and used education to set them up for success in life. Her 24-year-old daughter graduated from Honors College at U of M and is a neuroscientist today. And her 27-year-old son graduated from U of M, and he graduated with a biomedical engineering degree. They are healthy and happy and living. Help us to welcome Tamara Carlone.
Oh, it's such a blessing to be here. My name is Tamara Carlone. I am Michigan's original Mama Bear. I've spent 22 years fighting the inappropriate lessons and trying to get our schools back to academic excellence ever since my kids were in elementary school, and I noticed it. I have researched, I have gone across the state and talked about what I have seen, and I've been fighting for the kids in our country ever since. Nobody wanted to believe me. It's a very inconvenient truth, isn't it? Trust me, I wish I were wrong. The virus, terrible thing, but I have to thank it for opening up parents' eyes to what's going on in the schools. Yes. Now, all the candidates are talking about it, and I say, thank you, God. We're finally here where we're looking at what comes first, our kids. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Welcome to the table, because it's going to take all of us to get our schools back to excellence. Oh no, there's a timer, dang it. We must focus on reading, writing, and arithmetic. I want to be very clear. If you remember nothing I say, remember this. While COVID did cause learning loss, the tanking academic results started well before that. Please know, Common Core came into Michigan in 2010. Before Common Core, third grade reading proficiency was 75%. 10 years into Common Core, it was 44%. From 2010 to 2020, then COVID happened, right? And we went down a couple more percentage points. Okay, so please help me get my Common Core repeal bill through. Talk to your legislators, talk to your candidates, talk to Tudor, make sure everybody knows we have got to get rid of Common Core. My bill, HB 4192 from 2017, would give us, our kids, the proven best standards and tests in the nation, and that is of Massachusetts. And we absolutely have to get our kids back on track and give them the proven best. Can you believe that nobody has been held accountable for those results taking like that? And we still have it. And one of the biggest national pushers of Common Core, Bill Gates, has admitted that it is a failed experiment, and we still have it. I can't believe it. So Democrats, I'm sorry to say, never talk about academics. They've been after the hearts, souls, and minds of the kids for a very long time, and they're doing a great job, unfortunately. Their report card is in terms of their being in charge of education for a very long time. Us, we've been asleep. 60% of our kids can't read. Our kids are confused. They're confused because these lessons are confusing. Anxiety and depression have skyrocketed amongst our youth. Another thing nobody seems to talk about, 2010 to 2020, the same time period, from 10 to 14-year-olds, suicide doubled. Yes, we need to look at these things. So I'm about truth and excellence in education for every child. Is that pushing 57 genders on our kids?
No.
How about LGBT?
No.
How about CRT, DEI, SAL? How about pornography?
No.
Boys and girls bathrooms?
No.
Furries, anybody?
No.
No. The State Board of Education is part of the executive branch, and they've gone rogue, just like the rest of it. The executive branch is rogue. The State Board of Ed has been rogue for a very long time. I'm seeking a seat on that board so I can get our schools back to excellence and to give our kids a chance at a happy childhood. Now, my time is about up. I welcome you to go to carloanforeducation.com. There you'll see my extensive plan to get our schools back on track. You'll see the experience that I have, extensive experience to bring to the table. I do believe God made me for this time. And lastly, hundreds of endorsements, including national education experts, and I feel very blessed to be here today. Thank you so much.
Our next speaker is Stephen. Stephen Elliott. Stephen is not only a veteran and businessman, he is a patriot who loves his country and believes that America is exceptional. He has seen the American dream become out of reach for too many due to rising inflation, increasing crime, poor education, erosion of freedoms, economic and stagnation, high taxes and regulations. It is for these reasons that Stephen has decided to run for United States Congress. Let's vote Stephen on November 8th as our next United States Congress.
Thank you, guys. Honestly, I never thought I'd get here as a candidate running for public office. I'm generally a man of little words, a lot of action. And I'd like to speak to you guys more as a parent and a family man than somebody who's running for public office. I'm a blue-collar guy. The media doesn't at all talk about what I really am. It just talks to me. It says, you know, Rashida Tlaib is running against a tattoo artist. But what it doesn't talk about is, as a blue-collar guy, I built one of the largest tattoo businesses in the state of Michigan. I was the most successful business owner or individual's tattoo guy in the state of Michigan before I sold my company. If these hands were not working These hands are not making money. And I spoke to a lot of people here in Dearborn about what's going on in schools, and most of them were, hey, we just want to go to work. We want to work our factory jobs, we want to go to our skilled trade jobs, and we want to go home, we want to take care of our families. We want to pay our taxes, and we don't want to be told what to do. And I know I only get so many minutes up here, but where do I start with my opponent? She's completely made not only the streets of the district, but the streets of the United States less safe. We've opened borders with fentanyl, enough fentanyl to kill every American coming across the border. And she doesn't care. Our education system, we have third graders. A majority of third graders in the state of Michigan are illiterate. Fox 2 did not like me saying that. If any of you guys saw my interview, I called them illiterate. I meant it. Third graders, if you are 97% inefficient of reading, you cannot read in third grade. Okay, it's not a stretch. Instead of Fox 2 backing me up, they attacked me and back Detroit Public Schools. Okay. We are going to, when I get into office, we are going to make our streets safer. We are going to close this border, and we're going to take our schools back. Pornography is gone from the schools. Pornography is gone. Peter Dixon said it best the other day. She said it, if you will go to jail for reading a book to a 5-year-old at a bus stop, it should not be at a school. 100%. And I know I'm taking some, people look at me and they're like, we're losing, representation in the Muslim community here in Dearborn. And what we are seeing, the Christian and Muslim coalitions coming together. What they also don't talk about is that coalition has been going on in my house for 10 years. I'm engaged to an amazingly gorgeous, successful, beautiful Albanian Muslim woman. I'm an immigrant from Canada, she's an immigrant from Albania. We believe in the American dream. We believe in uniting the country. This is the best. People don't realize this 12th district is the best district to absolutely represent the United States. It is the most diverse from poorest people to the richest people. It has every race and every religion. And what we can do is we can show the world that the United States and the people in this district, that we can control the elections. It's we the people, for the people. And this district is going to put Rashida Tlaib out of business. We are going to fire Rashida. Country back on November 8th.
She's out. Rolla Mack is our next speaker. Rolla was born and raised in Dearborn, Michigan. She is the first generation Lebanese American. She is a wife, a mother, and a business owner, and a registered nurse. She is an advocate of medical freedom and parental rights. She is a Republican precinct delegate. More recently, she has joined Dearborn parents in their movement to protect children from sexually explicit materials in school. Welcome, my friend, Rolla.
Distinguished guests, respected community members, Assalamu alaikum, God's peace and blessings be upon you all. Ahlan wa sahlan. Ahlan wa sahlan, which translates to welcome, is one of the mostly used Arab greetings. I've recently discovered the deeper meaning and origin of the greeting, ahlan wa sahlan, and I would like to share it with all of you. The original phrase is, halalta ahlan wa nazalta ahla. Halalta means you have come or arrived. Ahlan is derived from the word ahl, which means family. Nazalta means to come down, descend, or stay. And sahlan is derived from the word sahel, meaning plain, a mostly flat area of land. Sahel can also mean easy, without trouble or without difficulty. Putting this all together, ahlan wa sahlan means you have come to a people who are like kinsfolk, family into a place that is smooth, easy, and without difficulty. The phrase throughout the years was shortened to ahlan wa sahlan. You all have found family and you have found a home. This is the hospitality of the Arab culture in a nutshell. I had an idea of what I was going to discuss in my speech today, but I was moved to take it in a different direction after seeing local headlines about the past statements of the politicians in attendance today. A few months ago, I crossed paths with Miss Bernadette Smith. Bernadette, a pastor and my sister in faith, told me she has been praying for Dearborn for many years. She asked me to assist in planning a rally in Dearborn. I asked what the purpose of the rally was, and Bernadette told me it was a Unite America rally. Well, my eyes lit up with excitement and I said yes, I would love to take part in such a movement. With so many forces trying to divide us and pit us against each other, an event that promotes unity in my hometown was no-brainer to me. The best way to ensure the common good is not through ideologies that pit one minority against another, or one race against another, or one religion against another, but rather to affirm the principles of the First Amendment, which guarantees our freedom of expression and seeks to protect religion from government, not government from religion. At a time when the religious freedoms of people of all faiths, including Muslims, Christians, and Jews, are being attacked in the name of diversity and inclusion, now is the time for religious communities to come together and to work towards the common good and to defend the freedoms, liberties, and shared ideals that are at the heart of our nation. In the past 3 months or so, Bernadette and I laid out the groundwork for this endeavor. It just started as us two, and now we have hundreds of people here wanting to take part. We can work with those who pray for us or those who prey on us. The choice is ours. We all know there's an old guard in Dearborn for decades that has maintained the status quo. This is how you think, this is how you vote, this is who you support or who you don't support, no questions asked. They exploited the vulnerability and emotions of this community, and they continue to do so. This is an opportunity to break the cycle and change course. The digging up of past statements was not done out of the concern for Muslims. Rather, it is a cheap political tactic designed to exploit the emotions and insecurities of Muslim Americans. Their goal is to convince you that voting Republican is a greater threat to your Islamic values and way of life than voting Democrat. It is a tool of manipulation to remain in power. It's a manipulative strategy, one that some Muslims will unfortunately be swayed by. Do we need the acceptance and validation of any politicians to believe and pray as we see fit? No. The progressive left has more than just criticisms of Islam. At the state and local level, the left have proposed laws to undermine the rights of all parents to protect their children physically, emotionally, and most importantly, spiritually. Islam does not need the lip service of politicians. It doesn't need the lip service of politicians. It doesn't need apologies or praise from people who don't understand it. And it certainly doesn't need to acquiesce to the demands of a progressive dogma. Islam will persist with or without us. Next, I wanted to address my fellow Americans and the political leaders that are here asking for our vote today. Muslim participation in this rally should not be taken as a sign of fidelity to a political party or any politician. No doubt, some of the statements that have been recently released demonstrate an obvious rift between the political right and Islam. Although we would love for our Islamic values to be better understood, this will take time. For now, let us unite under the many values we do share. Of your fidelity, we ask you only to honor your oaths of office and conduct your business in accordance with the Constitution. We don't need you to understand and defend Islam, but we demand that you understand and defend our religious rights under the First Amendment of the Constitution. So long as you can conduct yourselves in accordance with the law of this land and defend our rights as endowed by our Creator, we will find common ground to build upon. And I end with this. In the 7th century, a newly appointed governor of Egypt was given a letter by the Caliph Imam Ali, peace be upon him, instructing him on how to govern. He told him, quote, "Remember that the citizens of the state are of two categories. They are either your brethren in faith or your equal in creation. Forgive them as even you would like God to forgive you." End quote. Thank you all. God bless you, and God bless America.
Was lived in Dearborn for 40 years. He is an IT professional more than 15 years. For the last few months, he's been an advocate for parents' rights. His way of love and affection.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Peace be upon you all. I have to say, I'm very pleasantly surprised at the crowd. Wow, you guys are amazing. So, never in a million years did I think I would be standing here in front of you today. And to be honest, speaking in front of Republican officials, because I grew up as a Democrat. My father was a Democrat, my mother was a Democrat, our entire neighbors were Democrats, our whole family were Democrats. And probably like many of you, I voted Democrat in the last election.
Ooh, Democrats. Ooh, Democrats. Bye, Democrats. Bye.
But you know what? You know what?
No, I don't want to.
In recent years, the Democratic Party has moved further and further from our values at warp speed. They've been taken over by a small cabal of radical left ideologues. And through all those years, we remained silent. They hoisted a barely functioning man to the White House, and we stayed silent. They gave us defund the police, and violent crime surged, but we stayed silent. They gave us open borders and tons of fentanyl flooded our neighborhoods, devastating our families, but we stayed silent. They shut down our schools, they shut down our mosques, they shut down our churches and synagogues, and we stayed silent. Apparently, According to them, worshiping your Creator is not an essential service. They gave us an economic recession. Gas prices are at record highs. Inflation is the highest it's been in more than 40 years. And we stayed silent. You know, we were gonna let all that slide.
Not anymore.
But when they targeted our children with sexually explicit books, we said, hell no! Hell no! Hell no! Hell no! Parents of all races, faiths, and ethnicities, they came together to defend our children from smut in our schools. And what happened? You guys were smeared by a well-organized, well-funded, and corrupt Democratic Party machine that has no sense of shame or honor. You guys were called barking dogs, sheep, and a mob. This issue of the books in our schools has proven beyond any reasonable doubt. The Democratic Party machine in Dearborn has no respect for you, your faith, or your values. They called you racist, homophobes, Islamophobes, religious bigots, and of course, white supremacists. But you know what? You know what, Dearborn parents? One thing they can never call you? Cowards. Because what you did was absolutely amazing. You sent shockwaves around the world. They thought they were going to silence you and stop you. But they only exposed and humiliated themselves. That's right. And now get this. The Democrats are using their paid agents in our community and asking for our votes like nothing happened. Like it was just a misunderstanding. What do we say to that? Hell no! Actually, in the words of Chris Rock, is you crazy? The radical Democrats in Dearborn, they attacked our faith and our families. They even came after our jobs. And let that sink in. Let that sink in for a minute. Because I and other publicly folks spoke out publicly against sexually explicit books. We were targeted and harassed at work. I was treated worse than a criminal simply for stating an obvious truth. And you know what the mother of all ironies in all this is? They attacked us, and then they claimed they were the victims and we were the aggressors. They may have the power, but we have the people. They have the money, but we have the faith. And God willing, we shall overcome. How in God's name can we support a party that doesn't have the decency or courage to stand with parents and protect our children? How can we support a party with an attorney general that wants a drag queen in every classroom? That's absolutely crazy. How can we support a party with a governor that shows utter contempt for parents? We say loudly and unapologetically, family before party. So what are we going to do on November? What? Vote them out! 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 Dearborn parents, you are at the vanguard of an epic struggle to restore common sense and basic decency to our government, to restore parents' rights to guide their child's education, and to reject the divisions based on race, ethnicity, and gender. You are the defenders of our faith, defenders of our freedom, and defenders of our children. And in this struggle, Steve Elliott, Christina Caramo, and Mike DePerno are on your side. Matt DePerno's on your side. Matt DePerno's on your side. And Tudor Dixon is on your side. They stand in solidarity with Dearborn parents. Your courageous stand has inspired thousands and tens of thousands of Americans from all walks of life. America is the land of the free and home of the brave. And you, Dearborn parents, are proof of that. Okay. I know I'm running out of time, but please, you have to forgive me. I'm a little bit emotional with this topic. I want to end, guys, with a personal story, okay? Last week, I attended my first rally for Tudor Dixon. I went to Flat Rock with a couple of my friends, okay? And when we got done, people, all of them, they came up to me and they started hugging us and thanking us for the inspiration they said that Dearborn Parents has provided. And while I was in Flat Rock, I met a new friend. His name is Russell. Come on up, Russell. Come on up. I want to say something, guys. When we were there after the rally, I spoke to them and I said, listen, guys, we came all the way from Dearborn to Flat Rock. So we need you to come from Flat Rock to Dearborn. And here he is. And Russell, Flat Rock, Russell looked at me and he said, can I come to Dearborn? So I said, in my naive self, I thought, okay, maybe he needs a ride. So I said, yeah, take my number. I'm going to come pick you up and then drive you back, no problem. He said, no, but am I allowed in Dearborn? I said, oh my God. Right at that moment, in that instant, I had a eureka moment. And then I realized something, a light bulb went inside my head. All of these years, the media has been telling people like me that I have to be afraid of people like him. And that same media is telling people like him that he has to be afraid of people like me. You see the game that they're playing? And the same media is the same media that controls the Democrat Party that working in cahoots. And that's the only way they're maintaining power, by keeping us apart. For me, guys, it doesn't have to be that way. We have to use our God-given intellect to differentiate between what is right and what is wrong. Our allegiance is not to a party, it's to the truth. For me, this election is not about Democrats versus Republicans. It's about our honor and dignity as a free people. It's about safeguarding our values and protecting our children. So, with belief in our Lord, belief in our mission, and belief in each other, let's go out on November 8 and shock the world.
Awesome. Wow. All right, our next speaker. Dr. Rob Steele.
Are you surprised they're all sticking together?
We're excited. Yes, thank you. Dr. Rob Steele. Well, Rob gave you in this introduction. Rob is our national committeeman for the MIGOP. Rob wasn't sure he was going to be here. He called me last night and said, I can make it. So when Rob comes, I make room for him. Rob, we welcome you to come in.
Man, have I got a tough job following those last two speakers, right? How many people think he should run for mayor of Dearborn right now? Mayor of Dearborn right there. Thank you, Natalie. I think he'll do it. You want to shock the world. Incredible. That was awesome. I just came from the Dixon event over in Livonia, massive crowd over there. It's great to be here in Dearborn. A lot of old faces I know. I actually ran against John Dingell in 2010, and that represented Dearborn. And I can proud to tell you, with the help of many of you in the crowd, I beat John Dingell in Dearborn. And we've heard a lot about the schools, right? I mean, everybody understands. A lot of people here, I think 100%, they think that they are responsible for the education of their parents, not the schools or the government, right? Yes. Well, if that's what you think, then what we must do this time is we must fire Gretchen Whitmer, Jocelyn Benson, drag queen in every school, Dana. Drag queen Dana, how about that? What do we call that? And we also have to get rid of Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. God, what a disaster. And what the heck was going on at the Pelosi house the last couple of nights? Who the heck knows? But anyway, the Republican National Committee, I'm the male representative. There's one man, one woman from each state. I'm just going to give you a couple minutes of what's been going on with the RNC. First off, over 70% of the RNC members are new since Donald Trump, including me, since Donald Trump became the leading candidate in 2016. So it's a great committee of American First patriots ready to rock and continue on to the next presidential election. Just one quick thing, the RNC does not pick candidates. They don't give candidates money. That's up to you guys in the primary. The only time, we actually have a rule against supporting people in the primary, and apparently in Michigan you have to be a helicopter pilot, because the only time that the members of the RNC in Michigan have voted to support somebody in the primary was John James and Tom Barrett, two great patriots. What the RNC does is build the infrastructure. We supply the data. We have a great fundraising platform. We create the rules. We do all the things that candidates can't do. As great as Matt is, when he's running for this office to be your attorney, the people's attorney here in the state of Michigan, he's running to be elected. He can't go out and do other things. It takes other groups to do that, and that's the RNC. So, when we build this superhighway, candidates all get to jump on. Some, we find, jump on a mule. Some get in a covered wagon. Some are in a caddy just cruising. Some are in a Ferrari making great time. It's up to them, but we're going to supply them and not going to pick winners and losers when it comes to that. So, how many people have heard Florida? They've had this massive influx of Republican registrations. From DeSantis, it went from 200,000 to 300,000 down to 200,000 to 300,000 up. And that's because the RNC has had hundreds of staff, fully paid, full-time, in Florida, recruiting people to register to vote for Republicans. We have 38 community centers around the country in all the various places that need help, where we're targeting to beat Nancy Pelosi in the House. So, for example, in Vietnam, our community center put on by the GOP, it's where the Vietnamese now go to teach their kids their cultural dances. It's where they go to teach their kids how about Vietnamese cooking. And this is a political effort to get in and everybody out. So we're big on election integrity. We have 17 full-time staff working to hire and recruit workers and poll watchers. We have over 75,000 poll workers and poll watchers recruited throughout the country. We have completely filled Wayne County. There are no empty slots in Wayne County. So, thank you all for being here, and thank you for everybody that's new. Your presence is not being taken for granted. You are here to learn, and you are here for us to respect and listen to you, and you are not here, you are here for us to earn your trust and to earn your vote, and go ahead and put your family, your kids, and your culture, and whatever you want out of this great Republic of the United States first. Thank you all for being here.
The Smith Bros, Titus and Isaac, as Black conservative, they want to bring awareness to the tyrannical takeover of the far left in the United States. The far left has been slowly creeping its way into our government, school system, and our workplaces. And it's the Smithsboro's mission to bring the facts of what is truly going on in the everyday person. The brothers have covered very controversial topics like Kyle Rittenhouse, innocent, Black Lives Matter, being corrupt, CRT, being racist, abortion is murder, and so much more. The brothers are always looking for new topics to cover so that all of their supporters always stay up to date with what's happening in this country and all around the world, shedding light on the slow but progressively faster indoctrination of the far left. I encourage you, these young men have just about 1 million followers on YouTube. Close to 1 million, he's correcting me. Close to 1 million followers on YouTube. And welcome my sons, Titus and Isaac.
Well, thank you, Mom, for hosting this event. This is actually really cool. Why my voice sounds so deep? Not my voice isn't that. Anyway, this is Isaac. You can say hi. What's up, y'all? We got one mic, so it's gonna be interesting. So yeah, we started YouTube like a year ago, a little more for me, and all we were doing was doing what you guys are doing right now. And we're not gonna do it as polished because we're new to this, but basically just come against what the far left is doing. They're making people change their whole belief system. Something people have been voting left for years and years and years, but are out here trying to make your kids transition at ages of 5. And I just want to point this out real quick. You have to be 21 to drink. You have to be 18, I think, to get a tattoo without, or you can't get one with parent permission. But at 5 years old, you can transition gender. And this is the thing. I never wanted to be some political commentator who just started spouting out facts that you think everyone knows. But like, what? I was at work one day. This is how it all started. I'm going door to door trying to register Republicans to vote. This is my job in Texas. We just moved back to Michigan. And I was like, just upset because, you know, the most lunatic thing that you ever heard, Biden spouted out at the debate. And so I just started putting my opinions on social media, making videos. People were like, oh, I like this guy. I thought I was gonna get a lot of heat, and then I made him do it so he can tell his story.
Yes, he did force me. No, we made a video of my first time voting because I was not old enough to vote for Trump in 2016, but 2020, we registered voting and we were trying to be all incognito, making a funny video like, oh, we're voting for Trump and we're black, we can't let anyone know, so we did that whole thing, and after that, that blew up even more, and then I started, and I just think it's so crazy that we have a platform. We shouldn't have a platform having to speak these obvious truths to people, but it's, I mean, we do what we do, and people are just like, this is a breath of fresh air. And I'm just like, well, thank you. Thank you for listening to what I believe, but we were talking about CRT earlier, and it bothers me so much. Because it's like, if racism is as big of a problem as you say it is, telling little kids that they're born racist is not the solution. How does that make any sense at all? It just makes me so mad. It's so obvious that you have to be really stupid to think this makes sense. And this is the kind of stuff we talk about all the time. Also with this gender, nada, nonsense, transitioning and all that. If you want to be a transgender when you're 18, if you want to be a cat or something when you're 18, you're walking outdoors, go ahead and do what you want. Don't you dare try to make a child, make that normal for a child. It's not normal. It's not okay. We're not going to act like it's okay. When you're a kid and you're walking around thinking you're a dinosaur, your parents should, well nowadays you don't know, but like, your parents should not enable you and be like, oh yeah, you're a dinosaur, go ahead, do your thing. No, you come back to reality, you play your game, do whatever you want, but eventually you come back to reality. It makes me so mad that they're trying to normalize this and all that.
That's when people are leaving. People are sick of this. You can't tell some kid that that's okay. And this is all this sexualization. We're talking about the books. These books where the kids are having sexual explicit content. You're literally just trying to groom children. And this is honestly, I think, this is totally, not saying anyone else thinks this, I think it's just trying to normalize pedophilia. Because you're letting all these kids be exposed to sexual content. You're continuously trying to get them to always bring up sexual information. Let them play in the playground. Let them learn how to read. Because apparently they're not doing that now, according to whoever told us that. So why are we out here trying to make them know sexual topics and think of sexual things. Learn math, learn how to read, learn how to play with your friends. Go out and play with your friends and stop being on the internet all the time looking at creepy things because they slowly, I mean, we all know our phones. You talk about ice cream and 5 minutes later you're on Facebook and you see ice cream. Oh, so like they know what they're doing and it's so disgusting. And the fact that we're seen as the villains by a lot of people is actually insane. And this, it says in the Bible, in the end times, good will be seen as evil and evil will be seen as good. That's literally what's happening right now. Because, like you said, simple truths, things that we know to be true are, we're getting looked at as if we're crazy. No, you can't just decide that you're a boy if you're a girl. What? It's mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. And the fact, like you said, the fact that we have a platform, just saying something as simple as that, and people are waking up because the fact that we are growing, people are shocked because we're having millions upon millions of views. Thank you! Thank you so much! Oh my gosh! White people are like, we're their favorite person. Every single time. Every single time I'm like, I can't say that. No, literally, it's like, because I can't say anything. It's like, yes, they are more oppressed than black people actually in this country. I can say whatever I want and get away with it. Whatever I want. I can't be racist, remember? Because according to their definition, it really doesn't make sense. We made a video saying racism and point out the definition because someone said you can't be racist to white people. And I was like, that's not what the definition says. And then they go, oh, but it says marginalized. It said, in some cases, or it's typically marginal. It's not saying only, exclusively. And people just want so bad to hate white people. I love you guys, though, so don't worry. We love you all. But, honestly, I want to thank my mom for doing this, It's so awesome that you are rounding up people. She's famous out of nowhere. When I do move to Texas, and we're all like hanging out and doing everything, going to school, working, and she's like, oh yeah, I'm hosting this tour and I'm doing this. I'm like, what? All these names of the people, and I'm like, wow, you're a big deal, Mom. You're kind of cool. So we're so grateful for you, and thank you and Dad for raising us the way you did, because I cannot believe the way some people are thinking. With this, you can check us out on YouTube, Instagram, everything. SplitBuildPodcast.com.
Thank you so much. Well, is she in the house? Is she? Okay. Matt DePerno, I know he's in the house, our next Attorney General. Many years, including protesting across the state against Whitney and Nessel's unconstitutional mask mandate. Schools, businesses, lockdowns, vaccine mandates, and critical race theory. Matt DePerno has been attacked many times from elected officials, including current Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel. But he has not backed down 1 ounce. Matt DePerno is running to be our next Attorney General. He has been defending America's Constitution, civil liberties for over 25 years. Matt believes Michiganders deserve more from their elected officials, and as American citizens, our constitutional rights to ensure fair, free, and secure elections. On November 8th, we need to make sure that we vote in Matt DePerno as our next Attorney General. Welcome, Matt DePerno.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for the warm welcome. My name is Matt DePerno. I am running against Dana Nessel to be the next Attorney General. How many of you are ready to fire Dana Nessel? Me too. Michigan is the state where I was born. This is where I met my wife. It's where I raised my 3 wonderful children. It's where I started my own small business. But under the policies of Dana Nessel and Gretchen Whitmer, I am watching our state fall apart. Michigan is at an all-time high crime record right now. And Dana Nessel has put criminals over victims. She's put politicians over people. She stood on the sidelines as we've watched murders go up 30% in this state. Carjackings up 750%. We have rolling stops now in places like Pontiac, in Detroit again. As your next Attorney General, I vow to you that I will enforce the law, I will protect the Constitution, and I will put violent criminals in jail once again. Under the policies of Dana Nessel, Michigan has moved up to number 7th now in sex trafficking. Wow. Number 7, people. That is unbelievable to me. We have illegal fentanyl flowing across our borders, destroying families and killing children. And we've got an Attorney General who's too much of a coward to stand up to the Mexican drug cartels. This has to stop. Our education system is failing. Right? Has any of you noticed that? Right? We got Dana Nessel who says, drag queens are good for everybody. And then she came out with her policy and said she wants to put a drag queen in every classroom. Do we need drag queens in our classrooms? No, not just no, people. Hell no! But starting November 8th, we have a chance to change this. And you know how we're going to do it? The mothers, the mama bears across this state have finally had enough. They are tired of the policies of Whitmer and Nessel and what they've done to our children over the last 4 years. We have Democrats who now promote pornography in your school libraries. They promote hormone blockers for your children. This is crazy stuff, people. It's like we've got on the crazy train and we need to figure out how to go back to normal town. But the Democrats are destroying this state. They think the government knows what's best for your children. And it's time on November 8th that we tell them that you know what's best for your children. I vow to every one of you parents out there, I will stand with you always. I will ensure that you have a fundamental, ultimate say in your child's education. Now, business is also dying in this state, if you haven't noticed. But when you have an Attorney General who doesn't enforce the law, doesn't lock up violent criminals, and takes away your parental rights, no wonder this is happening to our state. But that isn't all, people. During the unforgettable COVID lockdowns, when Whitmer shut down this state, and never forget it, never forget that that actually happened in our state. The Democrats want to pretend like they never did that. But remember, it happened. Governor Whitmer sent our most vulnerable, the elderly in this state, our family members, our grandmothers, sent them to COVID-infested nursing homes, knowing they would get sick or die. Did it against medical advice, and did it for political reasons. And over 100,000 people in this state died. And Dana Nessel said she would not investigate that scandal because her and Gretchen Whitmer are friends. Their children play together, she said. They have coffee together in the morning. This is the height of tyranny and corruption. We need to root it out of Lansing and destroy it, people. And that's what I intend to do. Their extreme COVID lockdowns destroyed businesses and prevented your children from learning. And I tell you this, if they try to do it to you again, I will stand there and not let them do it. And also, people, just think about what the CDC just did. In a unanimous decision, they said that if your children want to go to public schools, they must have the COVID vaccine. When I am Attorney General, I will never let the Democrats stick a needle in your children's arm without your parental consent. And the Democrats, Dana Nessel's also proven she doesn't care about your First Amendment rights. In a recent decision in federal court, a federal judge told Dana Nessel, when she tried to shut down Catholic adoption agencies, the court said, Dana, stop weaponizing your office against your political opponents. Stop weaponizing your office against people with deeply held religious beliefs. I tell you this, everyone, when I'm Attorney General, regardless of your religion, I will stand with you and make sure your churches stay open and that you're allowed to worship. Not only does Dana Nessel want to put a drag queen in every school, but she also supports partial birth abortion up to the day of delivery for any reason. And she also supports Proposal 3. Proposal 3 must be defeated, people. This is far more than abortion rights. They want to allow puberty blockers at any age without your parental consent. They want to allow transgender surgery at any age without your parental consent. They want to teach your children critical race theory. They want to teach your children to hate God, hate their country, and hate their parents. And if they can divide you and your children, that's how they can indoctrinate. Proposal 3 must be defeated. Now the Democrats people have turned over their cards. They've told us exactly who they are now. We're no longer dealing with Democrats from the 80s and 90s. We're no longer dealing with Kennedy Democrats. We are dealing with cultural Marxists who want to radically transform our republic. These Democrats, they campaign on a woke agenda. They stand against the police. Dana Nessel supports the defund the police movement. They want to divide us on every issue and stoke racism. When I came out to your school board meeting a couple weeks ago and stood there with you, the next day Dana Nessel called me a racist. She said, Matt DePerno is a racist for standing with Islam. And I tell you this, I appreciate every one of you coming out here. Whether you are a Catholic, a Christian, a Muslim, a Chaldean, I stand with every single one of you. Now let me tell you a story. It may not surprise you, but my family didn't originate in the United States. In the early 1900s, my family were immigrants. They came to Michigan because it provided opportunity. They came to Detroit. Half my family from Italy, the other half of my family from Syria. So don't tell me that I don't stand with the Dearborn community. Because my family has been in the community since the 1920s. And I won't have Dana Nessel stand there and call me a racist for standing up for parental rights at your school board meeting. These Democrats are dangerous to our country right now. Dana Nessel has announced her new agenda. Her new agenda is this. They want to silence us. They want to deplatform us. They want to debank us. If that doesn't work, they want to put us under perpetual criminal investigation. They've already done it to me. Dana Nessel said she will do it to you. She's already announced she will put Republicans under investigation. She will put donors under investigation. She will turn Michigan into the next California. That's their agenda, and we have to stop them now. If you want to learn more about Dana Nessel, you can go to dirtydana.com. If you want to stand with me, you can go to fightformatt.com. So again, my name is Matthew Perno, and I want to be your next Attorney General. I want your vote. I am the fighter, people. I am the fighter who will enforce the law in this state. I will protect the Constitution. I am the fighter who will stand up for your parental rights. I am the fighter that will protect your children. I will never let them stick a needle in your arm without your approval. It is time we clean up this state. Now, if you've noticed any polls lately, we are dead even. Now, I don't always believe the pollsters. They've always proven that they're wrong in some way. They oversample Democrats, and Republicans don't answer polls, right? But I can tell you this race is razor thin right now. And I need your help. All the Republican candidates do. We need you to be all in right now.
We're in.
We need you to knock on doors. If you can make a donation to Fight for Matt, please do it. Ask your family members to do it. We've got 9 days to go. But right now, what's most important is voter contact. Go out and vote. And bring your family with you. I tell you this. If we turn 50,000 votes in the Dearborn community, we win this election across the board. Stop letting the Democrats tell you what you should think. Whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or an independent, what they're doing to divide us should terrify you.
Nobody's going to divide us.
We need to unite now.
We are here.
This is about our country, and more importantly, it is about your children right now. Stand up for your children. We are on the verge of a historic victory right now, people. Well, election integrity is a very important issue. No one's fought harder about that than me. But people, let me tell you, Michigan is the greatest state in the country. But we are going down the wrong path. And it is time we turn that around. Let's do it on November 8th. Let's come together. Let's unite. Let's get out to vote. Thank you for coming.
Lieutenant Governor. Shane Hernandez is the son of an immigrant worker. Shane Hernandez graduated from Lexington High School in Crosswell and later Lawrence Technology University in Southfield. Married and with daughters, Shane was an architectural designer at a firm in Port Huron. He's an active member of Lakeport Wesleyan Church and a member of the men's group. Elected to the State House in 2016, Shane quickly developed a reputation and voting record as one of the legislature's most conservative members. He earned 100% from the NRA and an A+ from the American Conservative Union. Michigan Farm Bureau and Right to Life of Michigan endorsed him previously. He was a leader in fighting Gretchen Whitmer's unconstitutional lockdowns order, sponsoring the bill to sue Whitmer, and forcing an end to her endless emergency orders. Shane has supported the border wall to fight illegal immigration and has been a leader in demanding election integrity. Michigan has Shane Hernandez to thank for the defeat of Gretchen Whitmer's 45-cent per gallon gas tax. And yes, I personally also worked with Shane about maybe a few years ago, and Shane was an amazing fighter to help include our religious freedom and give us a voice in Lansing. Welcome to the stage our next Lieutenant Governor, Shane Hernandez.
What a great audience. No matter where we go, you can see the momentum and feel the momentum. It is only 9 days until we can get our schools back to the basics, till we can put our parents back in charge in our schools and in our families, until we can make sure Gretchen Whitmer never serves in office in the state of Michigan again. You know, one of my favorite books is a book called Start With Why. I could stand here and tell you the how, and the what, and talk about policy, and talk about facts and figures and numbers. I want to talk to you about the why today. I want to talk to you from my heart about who I am, why we're here today, why this election is so important. Born and raised in Thumma, Michigan, in a small town called Croswell. It's about 25 miles north of Port Huron. My mom grew up on a small farm in Lexington. My dad, who is third generation in this country from Mexico, grew up in Croswell, and at 8 years old was picking vegetables in a field in Croswell. He was picking cucumbers. His family would travel to Ohio for tomatoes. They'd go to Texas to pick cotton. And he worked 26 years of his life at the Croswell Pickle Factory. He come from a blue-collar, hard-working background. But something that came with that was the belief that I was a Democrat. I grew up in a low-income family, a Latino family, and a dad who was a union worker. He wasn't just a union worker, he was the president of the local at his factory. And I allowed myself to be placed in those silos and just believe it. I didn't even understand it. In fact, the only understanding I had at that time was that Democrats were supposedly for the poor and Republicans were for the rich. I didn't know anything beyond that. I just believed it. In fact, at that time I thought every Republican was a rich white person. I didn't know anything else beyond that. Now luckily, I have one brother who's 5 years older than me. And somewhere around the age 18 or 19, my brother decided he was a Republican. And I wanted to be like my older brother. And when I saw how mad it made my dad, that made it that much more fun. So I was definitely going to do that. I mean, it sent him off the deep end. My dad started listening to Rush Limbaugh to try to understand what is it these guys are talking about. And he would come home and tell me, this guy's nuts, I don't know what he's talking about. I said, well, he's winning because you're listening to his show. So I went through high school telling people I was a Republican, but I didn't really understand it. It didn't make sense to me with how I grew up. But as I went off to college, I went to Lawrence Technological University, as Bernadette said. I went to study architecture there. I studied sustainability and green design at the height of Al Gore's relevance, if he was ever relevant. And I learned real quick, you better learn to back yourself up. in a college, in a university setting like that, right? You're gonna go tell your college professors you're a Republican. You better back it up. There's probably some people in this room have learned recently, if you speak out, all of a sudden you can get attacked real fast if you're not falling in line anymore, right? I wasn't falling in line anymore when I went to Lawrence Tech. Now, I didn't look at what's George W. Bush doing in office, thank goodness. I didn't look at what's the Michigan legislature doing. I looked at what does it mean at its core to be a conservative? What does it mean at its core to be a Republican? And I will tell you that my mom made sure from a young age that faith was the center of our lives, that God was at the center of our lives. And even 20 years ago, the Democrat Party was a party starting to turn their backs on that. And my dad, when I think about what does a family like my dad's come to this country for? What did his dad bring him from Texas to Michigan for? He brought him here to work, to have an opportunity, to live the American dream, quite frankly. And I think about it, and I'm the first kid in my family at college. Here I am, at a university, going to college, and I think about it today. This is 62 years ago, my dad started in those fields at 8 years old. And today, I have a master's degree. I served in the legislature for 4 years. I chaired a $60 billion budget. In the 2 years I've been out of the legislature, I've started 3 businesses. And I'm the nominee for lieutenant governor. I have lived the American dream. My dad never played some victim card about what he had done as a kid. He made it very clear that he didn't want that for me. He wanted something better for me. But he also made it very clear that he learned a lot of values in that field. He learned about the importance of family in that field. All I want right now is the same opportunities for my daughters. My 10-year-old and my 8-year-old daughter. I want the same opportunities, the same country that I grew up in, the same state that I grew up in. And it's under attack today. Families and children are under attack today from a Democrat Party that is turning their backs on the average hardworking family. They serve these coastal elitists right now. They don't have any interest in families like mine anymore. It's so frustrating to watch. We're not going to let this happen on our watch. You know, during this campaign, there's been some incredible experiences, some interesting experiences. Tudor Dixon and I, probably 4 or 5 weeks ago, did 2 press conferences. One of them, the press conferences I never believed we would have to have in this country, in this state. One of them to say, we're not going to teach sex and gender to kids 3rd grade and below. We're going to teach the basics. We're going to teach kids to read, write, and add in our schools. We're not going to have that. And the next press conference was to say, we're not going to have boys playing in girls' sports, going in their locker rooms, going in their bathrooms. You know, there's actually people that are mad at us for saying that. Well, what about the little boy who has 2 moms at home? Well, I want that little boy to read, write, and add just like I want my daughters to read, write, and add. That's what I want. I'm going to tell you a quick story to tell you what's at stake. As I had gotten out of politics, I had been back in the private business world for 6 months. I was working as a project manager for a construction company. And I knew I was on the short list for lieutenant governor. I had received a few phone calls telling me about it. And it got more and more calls and more and more calls. So my wife and I eventually started talking about what do we do if this call comes. And then we got to that last day where Tudor Dixon had to make a decision, and I hadn't received a phone call yet, so I went to work just like any other day. Like so many businesses in our state that are hurting for employees right now. I got there that day, and the owner and I had to put our work boots on that day because we didn't have anybody else. So I'm installing steel columns in a basement on a house we're building. And at about 10:30, I pulled my phone out of my pocket and take a look at it, and I had a missed call from Tudor Dixon. I thought, well, I probably should get out of this basement and call her back. She said, Shane, I want you to join this team. I said, well, my wife and I have talked about this, and we haven't made a decision yet. you got to give me a couple hours. I'm going to go sit down with her face to face and talk about this and make a decision. So I get in the work truck, I call my wife, tell her why I'm coming home, tell her the conversation we need to have. And the rest of the drive home, it's a quiet drive home. It wasn't about, do I think I'm the right choice, do I think I'm qualified for this? It was about the idea that I had given up this job in Lansing that I was commuting 240 miles a day for. I was commuting 4 miles now. I've missed a lot in my kids' life. 10 and 8, missed birthdays, missed events. I had just started coaching my daughter's soccer team. My thought was, I can't do this to them. I'm not going to do it. So I pull up to my house, and my wife is in the driveway, getting 2 chairs out of the back of the van, setting 2 chairs in the driveway. And this is when I realized she's not going to let me in the house. We're going to have this conversation right there in the driveway. And I'll tell you, there's 2 figures in my life that are never wrong. One is God, and number 2 is my wife. Married 17 years of marriage, she's right. And so we sit down there, and I tell her what I was thinking. She's going to agree with me, right? She gave me that look I've had so many times that you're wrong. And she said to me, you have been a county party chair, you've been a Tea Party chair, you've been in the legislature 4 years, we've done all this work, and we've talked every day about our frustrations with where this state and country are headed. If you tell Tudor Dixon no, can you look your kids in the eye and tell them you did everything in your power to change it? Here I am today. 9 days away from changing it. Not just our race, across the board, school boards, local races, county commission races. We are 9 days away from putting a stop to it. You see, I had kind of immersed myself in that private business world. I was enjoying it. But my wife realized something before I did. She knew where we were headed. She knew that Democrats were no longer dipping their toe in the water and testing the water and seeing, can we get a little bit here and can we get a little bit there. She knew that our families and our children were under full attack from the left. That this election would become about them. She knew where we were headed. She knew MDE is putting out these videos about here's how to ask kids about their gender and their pronouns and do they want a different name than they have at home. And don't tell the parents about it. And we have Prop 3 on the ballot that here's how you put it into action. Here's how you actually get it done. And don't tell the parents about it. She knew that's where we were headed. So here we are today, coming together. I will tell you, my brother and I didn't win my dad over as a Republican by arguing policy with him. We won him over by talking about core values. We won him over, and it took him years. Republican was a bad word to him. He couldn't even say it at first. We're not in this room saying, become a Republican. We're in this room saying, let's work together for our kids and our grandkids. You guys can decide, after Tudor Dixon and I step in there and put a stop to it, we're committing to building a relationship. We're committing to coming back. You guys can decide going forward, but we have the same interest in mind right now. It's our kids, it's our grandkids. That's what's at stake. Now, I get to introduce our next speaker, who, do I introduce our next speaker? I don't introduce our next speaker. I was told I do. All right. Anyhow, we are going to go out for these next 9 days. We are going to talk to anybody and everybody that will hear this message about our families and our children and our grandchildren. And we are going to win this together on November 8th. Thank you.
Correct.
Bring the governor out.
Our
We're working on it.
our
You're
next,
the governor.
Yes,
We're working
yes.
on a new governor of Michigan on the
our next speaker is our next Secretary of State. proud Christian patriot from Oak Park, Michigan. Yes. Christina is running for Michigan Secretary of State to fight to make sure that elections are decided by legal votes, not manipulation and corruption. And to improve the SOS branch office service for all Michigan citizens. More broadly, as Secretary of State, Christina will work to restore the rule of law and earn back the trust of Michigan citizens in our government. A believer in servant-based public service, Christina looks to the Constitution as the supreme law of the land. With its focus on limited government and the protection of the inalienable rights of the American people, Christina will see to it that take place. Christina, I'm going to add this, is such a beautiful, honorable, intelligent, brilliant, respectful young lady. Help me welcome our next Secretary of State, Christina Caramba.
Hello everyone, my name is Christina Caramba, your next Michigan Secretary of State. And it is such an honor to be here before you. It's kind of interesting, I was listening to Shane's remarks. And you know, I came from a union family. I grew up in a community filled with immigrants. And I've grown to understand and appreciate what it means to be an American. And so many people do not value what it means to be free. And growing up in a community filled with immigrants and hearing the stories of what it was like for them to experience their home countries, and also having lunch ladies who had tattoos from being victims of the Holocaust on their arms, I understood at a young age what it meant to be free and how important it is to protect our freedoms. This is why I'm running for the office of Michigan Secretary of State. It is the only way we the people maintain control of our government is to have our voting rights protected. And oftentimes we hear people talk about representation. What does that mean? Representation isn't having people who look like me stand before me and be on TV. Representation means that I actually have a voice in my republic and that my voting rights are protected. What are my voting rights? Our voting rights are access to the ballot. Our voting rights are ensuring that our ballots are not manipulated. Our voting rights means that our legal votes are not diluted by illegal ballots. And this is not a partisan issue. I don't care if you're a Democrat, Independent, Republican, Libertarian, tax-free, Constitution Party, it doesn't matter, Green Party. That's none of my business as Secretary of State. My responsibility is to ensure that you can access the polls and that your vote is counted as cast and that it's not diluted by illegal ballots. And what I'm seeing from my opponent, for the 5th time a judge has slapped her down for breaking the law. And the funny part is my opponent is an attorney, but yet she keeps breaking the law. Recently, she tried to violate the rights of poll challengers and their ability to supervise the election process. The audacity of this woman to think that we don't have the right to supervise the election process. That is the only mechanism that we the people have to exercise control over our government is when we vote. That's it. There is no other way. And she has consistently suppressed efforts from citizens to supervise the election process. Now she's going so far to claim that there's going to be violence and disruption on election day. Now folks, I've lived in Michigan my entire life. I have never ever seen violence and disruption on election day. The reality is this. My opponent does not want we the people to watch what she is doing. That's what's going on. And so she has chosen to demonize everyday Michiganders who want to exercise their control over their government and see what they are doing. My opponent has refused to remove dead people from the voter rolls. Refused. Now here's the interesting thing about that. The Secretary of State is a keeper of the records. The Secretary of State knows who's dead, who's alive, and where do you live. Is this person registered at a commercial property, a vacant lot? The Secretary of State knows all this. But yet she refuses to keep accurate voter rolls. My opponent refuses to secure the ballot process. Many people are voting absentee, and that is your constitutional right to vote absentee. But she refuses to secure the absentee voting process. And then when we issue complaints about it, she demonizes us and calls us names. You know, it's really funny. I shared on my social media account a video of a woman sitting in a car signing multiple ballots. This is on camera. And yet you're an insurrectionist and a threat to democracy for pointing this out. First of all, we are a republic. Number two, I have every right to scrutinize my government. See a theme here what I'm saying? The constant theme of what I am saying is that we the people have a right to scrutinize our government. And that doesn't matter what your political affiliation is. And then what's so interesting is our Attorney General, Dana Nessel, the one who wants a drag queen in every school, has the nerve to say that I am potentially engaging in a felony and can be criminally charged for complaining about fraud in our election system. So now I should go to jail? What happened to elevating all black voices? Oh, well, I thought it's only black voices that they agree with, right? And this is what's going on. These people use race as a ruse. Whenever you speak up about corruption, I've been called all kind of names. The same people who claim they want to elevate black voices call me a national security threat. Literally. For wanting to speak up about election corruption. But I want people to understand, my only concern is not election corruption. How many people agree that we pay way too much in the Secretary of State's office? Way too much. Way too much. The SOS brings in about $2.9 billion a year into the state of Michigan. Only 7% of that goes to running the Michigan Department of State. Where is the money going? What are they doing? There are so many ways that we can improve our branch office operations. We have to ensure that we have appointment services and walk-in services. We have to have both. We need to improve the quality of service that you receive when you go into a SOS branch office. Nobody wants to go to the Secretary of State's office. It's not like you're going for a hobby. You're going because you're legally required to do so. So we want to ensure that the experience is pleasant and that you're not being overcharged. But I want you to understand this. My main reason for running for Secretary of State is to protect your voting rights. Let me say this, and I don't want to put people on the spot, but you just know, if you are not registered to vote, please make sure you are registered to vote. You can check online at the Secretary of State's website, or you can go into your local clerk's office or contact your local clerk. Make sure you are registered to vote. This is so important, what we've seen across this state. As a campaign, we've done over 350 events. And I absolutely love talking to people across Michigan who are getting more engaged. And one of the things we want to see with this enthusiasm is we don't want it to end here on November 8th. We want to be victorious on November 8th, and we want to keep the momentum going. Because we, the people, are going to keep watching our elected officials. Watch me too. Scrutinize me as well. The thing about it is that starts with voting. So you have to be registered to vote. Make sure you're registered to vote. It's too critical because all the complaining in the world will not make a hill of beans if you are not voting November 8th. So make sure that you're voting. And then once you vote people in office, make sure you're watching what they're doing. Show up to the city council meetings. It is so beautiful what we've seen in Dearborn with so many moms and dads showing up to the school board meetings demanding that they pull these explicit, obscene books out of the schools. And you know what's interesting about the whole thing is how the people who are in support of these books were gaslighting people and lying about the parents, calling them bigots and all kinds of names, insulting their intelligence, saying that they were just being held captive by white supremacy. I mean, as a fellow minority, it is so offensive. Like, we don't have a mind of our own, like we're too stupid to draw our own conclusions. That is racism. That is racism. And the following week, I was on a program here in Dearborn, and one of the moms had actually brought a copy of the books. And they were so obscene. You wouldn't even, if I opened those books up in public, I would be asked to leave. But yet they're okay for our children. Now these same people who want to pump pornographic books into our schools are also the ones who are overseeing systemic election corruption. They're the same people. They're the same ones pushing Prop 3. They're the same ones pushing Proposal 2. Proposal 2 is also a problem. They want to allow private money in our elections. Does that make any sense to you? Private money in elections. We recently found out that the city of Detroit has been utilizing an illegal machine partially funded by Mark Zuckerberg Center for Technology and Civic Life to illegally check signature verification. They are using an illegal machine. This is what's going on. And so when you have private money in election, these individuals, if they want to, are allowed to do all types of things in our elections without any oversight from members of the public. But yeah, I'm a national security threat for talking about it. Additionally, these individuals want to have 9 days of early in-person voting with multiple municipalities voting in one location. I can go on and on and on and on and on and on about the problems of Proposition 2. But the thing about it is these people are so deceitful, just like with Prop 3, where they deceitfully claim that this is about abortion. Allowing a minor to get a sex change has nothing to do with about abortion. That is totally deceitful. And these same people are being totally deceitful about Proposal 2. It will weaken the security of our elections, which is a threat to our voting rights. So it is time that we the people wise up, no longer let these people lie to us, manipulate us, divide us, and we see them for what they are. We expose them, we fight back, we win, because the future of our children and grandchildren depend on it. And I'm going to wrap up my comments here. One of the things that was so encouraging by seeing the parents speak up at the school board meeting in Dearborn, people were there fighting for their children. This entire room is fighting for their children. Many people in here I know personally, people coming from all different communities, people who are passionate about all different issues. But at the end of the day, all of this is for our children. So thank you so much. Please make sure that you are registered to vote. And also, one more thing I forgot to mention, if you want to be a poll challenger, one of the things that's been brought to my attention in Dearborn, there have been nefarious actors who've been manipulating many members of our immigrant community and telling them who to vote for. So we want to ensure that we have people in every community who are poll challengers to ensure that the law is being followed to protect people's voting rights. So you can sign up, ChristinaCaramo.com, become a poll challenger, ensure you're registered to vote. God bless. Thank you.
United States Army Reserve officer and political commentator who served as a United States representative for Hawaii's 2nd Congressional District from 2013 to 2021. We want to thank Tulsi for coming. Let us welcome Tulsi back.
USA is right. Thank you so much. It is such a privilege to be here and join you all today.
I love you.
Thank you. I love you back. I love all of you. What is the thing? A lot of us come from different places. We have different stories, different experiences. While I come from Hawaii, my mom grew up here in Grand Rapids. Her roots run deep here in Michigan. But the reason why I'm so happy to be here today to join all of you, the reason I am proud to stand with and for Tudor Dixon for governor, is because of the one thing. There's one thing that binds us all together. Who are we?
American people.
We are Americans. We are the ones that our founders talked about when they wrote the Declaration of Independence. We the people. And we're gathered here today on this beautiful Sunday afternoon because we love our country. We're gathered here today because this country that we love is under great threat from people who so readily dismiss our Constitution, who dismiss our Bill of Rights, and who are abusing their power at every turn to try to take our freedoms away.
The Democrat.
That's why I left the Democrat Party. Now, what I know in the last week and a half or 2 weeks, since I made my announcement and explained to people why I made that decision, I've been hearing from people all across the country, people from all different ends of the political spectrum, a lot of Democrats who are saying, I feel the same way that you do. Thank you for bringing voice to my frustrations and my concerns. People who stepped away from politics a long time ago saying that we've been too afraid to speak up because those in power are not only trying to push their radical so-called woke agenda on all of us and on our kids, they are dangerously weaponizing and politicizing the force of law to force compliance. You know, when we have a government in Washington that creates a so-called disinformation board, which is really a ministry of truth, what they're telling us is, you are too stupid to think for yourself. You are not allowed to exercise your right to free speech. We in the government have to control what you say, what you see, what you read, and what you're allowed to hear. How un-American is that? When we look at the First Amendment, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, how can we trust people who are in positions of power who are openly hostile towards people of faith and spirituality, trying to remove any sign or symbol of God from every public facet of our life? How do you trust people in those positions of power to then uphold our Constitution, to protect our God-given rights and freedoms? We can't trust them because they have proven through their actions and their policies that they don't actually care about us. They don't care about our children. They don't care about our freedoms. They don't care about the things that make this country so great. And that's what this election is all about. It's about something bigger than Democrats versus Republicans. It's about something bigger than left versus right. It frustrates me so much whenever I turn on cable news and I hear them referring to these elections almost like it's just a game, like it's sports. You know, which team is ahead in the polls right now? You've got the horse race and they're talking about all these analytics and statistics and all these things. But you know what they're not talking about? They're not talking about the fact that our young children are being exposed to such sexually graphic images and books that make the stomach turn without any parents having a right or say so. What they're not talking about is how this rise of inflation and this tanking of our economy is impacting everyday families all across this country who are trying to figure out, as it gets colder outside and energy prices are going up and the value of the dollar is going down, small businesses are struggling, how do you even survive? They are so out of touch. They are so out of touch with the needs of families and people across this country. They treat our lives as though we are just pawns in their big game and ambition for power. And that's what this election is about. So as you are sitting here, if any of you are undecided, or maybe you have friends who don't quite know who they're gonna vote for yet, maybe there are people in your lives who you know who've never voted for a Republican before and are trying to figure out what is most important to me in this election. I ask you to think about who you care most about. Get past the party labels. Think about our kids. Think about our kids. Think about their education. Think about those, if there are those of you who have come here from another country and you are building and living the American dream, think about protecting that dream being alive and well for them when they grow up. Think about the rights and freedoms that we cherish here. Because my concern is that if we, the people, do not act, if we do not bring about this necessary change, both in our governors leading our states, and members of Congress and members of the Senate, being a check on the abuse of power coming from Washington today, then over the next 2 years, look how far we have fallen over the last couple of years. Look at how bad things have gotten so quickly. My concern is if we do not act, we will get to a point where it has gotten so bad that we cannot come back. That we lose this heart and soul of this great country that we love so much. So the responsibility is in every one of our hands. Every single one of us. That's what our founders were talking about. When they chose those words, we the people, that was a call to action to us for such a time as this. We the people are the only ones who can save this country. We the people are the only ones who can bring about that vision that they had, that we have a government that is truly of the people, by the people, and for the people. So, I want you to welcome one of those people who is of the people, by the people, and for the people. I have had a chance to get to know Tudor over the last couple of days, had a chance to get an insight into her heart and why she is fighting for every single one of you. That she's got her 4 little girls who she's fighting for. Well, she's fighting for your kids and their future as hard as she's fighting for her own. She is not a politician. She is someone who has stood up and answered a call to serve because she is a public servant. And she will work tirelessly to continue to work for your well-being and this great future of the country that we love. Please join me in welcoming your next governor, Tudor Dixon.
Excited to be here and talk to you about this race. You may have heard that there was a debate a couple of days ago. So I have a big announcement to make. Gretchen Whitmer has changed the number of days in a month. So in case you didn't notice, your kids were only out of school for 3 months. And I say that because that's how she feels about parents. It's pretty clear where we are right now in Michigan. And I started this fight early on. When I started this fight, the fight was to make sure that it was girls' sports were protected. That our little girls that wanted to play sports were protected. And then all of a sudden, it went from girls' sports to women because all of a sudden Gretchen Whitmer started calling women menstruating people. And I'm thinking to myself, never call me that. I mean, if you were going to come up with something, why don't you do something? Well. So then we see that the teachers union comes out and decides to remove mom from the literature and change it to birthing parent. And that gets a little emotional for me because as a mom of 4 kids, that's a hard one. It's a hard job, and I'm not willing to give mom up. Just like I'm sure you're not willing to give dad up for the dads out there. But it's interesting because the Democrats had a rally yesterday, and Garland Gilchrist came out, and he said that he wants to make sure that every child has access to a public education, and that to make sure they can have a great public education, they have to take care of the adults first. The 2 things that were missing from this were service and parents. Those were the 2 words. Service and parents, they never mentioned. In fact, he even went so far as to say, political power is right here. We get political power from Detroit. This is about service, not power. But that explains a lot from the past 4 years. So I want to say, I know that there are a lot of people in here that say this isn't a partisan thing. And it's not, because the thing that we're talking about today is our kids. And it's not a Republican issue, and it's not a Democrat issue. And there is no part of me right now that is asking you to become like me, or to be me, or to live by what I live by. I'm asking you to think about whether or not you can trust me to serve you. And I hope that I can prove to you that I will serve you well. Because what's happening in Michigan, it goes beyond what we've just discovered. Which you have to say, we found some things out during COVID that we would never have known without COVID. So sometimes God's funny about things like that, you know? But it goes beyond that, because Michigan has been in decline in education for many years. Many years. We are now in the bottom 10 in the nation. We've been in a steady decline, but COVID really pushed us over that. And I keep hearing Gretchen Whitmer say that she cares about students and education, but when I look at that steady decline, I'm like, she's been in office for 20 years. So when does the caring start? Because I haven't seen it. So I look at our latest reading scores and I see that almost 60% of our third graders fail. And that's shocking to me. Across the state, almost 60% of our third graders fail. I had a reporter say to me, "You're really hung up on this third grade reading thing." And I was like, yeah, kinda. And she said, I mean, don't you think you're being ridiculous? Aren't there like some kids that don't need to read by third grade? And I said, which kids do you pick not to read? She was really quiet after that. I said, I'm gonna be really honest with you. I don't have a lot of parents coming to me and say, you know this reading thing? We don't do that. Stop talking about reading. But really, it's crucial because from kindergarten to third grade, you are learning to read. From third grade on, you are reading to learn. That's your key. We have too many kids in Michigan that we locked out of a future because we don't make sure they can read. And I had somebody say to me, why is it radical to say, no, we must have these kids reading, and if we can't, we have to figure out the solution. This is something that could change education in the state of Michigan permanently, for the better. We look at states like Florida. Florida used to be in the bottom 10. They were in our situation. And then they said, you know what, we care about parents. We're gonna have parents get involved, and parents are gonna be able to make the decision of what's best for their kid. And now Florida is in the top 10 in the nation, and we are in the bottom 10. So maybe it's time that we take a look at some of the things that our other states are doing that are successful and bring them here. We want to have the parents' right to know. So you don't have to FOIA things, you don't have to find out, you don't have to beg, you don't have to have your kid bring a book home that you're like, I'm sorry, what's that person doing? I have read these books and we're shocked. We had one of the ladies who runs Let Them Play, she got kicked off of Facebook for inappropriate content for posting one of those books today. And it's like, okay, well this is a new development. If Facebook is now kicking you off for this, then maybe we should take these parents seriously who talk about this. And something else happened in the debate, and I don't know if you noticed, but I think that Gretchen Whitmer thought that she was gonna get a real ride out of this comment because she said, my opponent thinks that books are more dangerous than guns. And I thought, you know what? Why do we have to choose? Why aren't we taking care of our kids no matter what? And let me tell you, out of the two of us, the only person that was governor when we had a school shooting in Michigan was Gretchen Whitmer. And I haven't seen her do anything about it. What she came out and said was, we need to have a discussion. But then she rips me on the stage and says she would be willing to put armed guards in our schools. Yeah, I would. I would be willing to bet that when someone is coming at Gretchen Whitmer, she doesn't turn to the state police and say, blow bubbles at those people. Last time I checked, I'm pretty sure they've got bullets. So why are armed guards good for her but not for us? But remember, this is a common theme with this woman. What's good for me is not good for you. So I'm old enough to remember when there was a time that she said, whatever you do, don't go to Florida. You know, she was like, there's a madman there, he's letting people actually have freedom. Don't go to Florida. So we heard for 2 weeks, you can't go to Florida, it's so dangerous if you go to Florida. And then all of a sudden it like sneaks out that she took her private jet to Florida. And we're all like, huh. And then there's like people on her staff on the beach down in Alabama posting pictures on Facebook. I mean, honestly, that's the arrogance level. You post the pictures. And we're all like, can't even go fishing? You know, are you kidding me? But the real kicker of this story is that she goes to Florida and then she comes back and she goes, my father was sick, and if I didn't go, the Republicans would come out and say I was a bad person for not going. And we're all sitting here saying, our family members have been sick. And we were told we couldn't see them. How dare you say that? The arrogance of that comment. So my grandmother was in a nursing home, and it was a pretty devastating situation because she wasn't sick. She didn't have COVID. But when you lock your seniors away, they get depressed. And we know that they get depressed. And so we got the call that we were losing her, that this was the end. And we were to come to her place and look through the window. And so we went, and not even knowing what was really happening at the time, I stepped back, and my sister was at the window with my 4 daughters and her daughter, and I took a picture of them because in my mind I'm thinking this is the last time they see her, and they're seeing her through the slats in the drape or in the blinds. And when I look back at that picture, there are families down the road looking in their windows at their loved ones. So for her to say that, when we had kids that died without parents and parents that died without kids, pretty arrogant. So when she stands up on stage and says, we were only closed for 3 months, when she says, my opponent thinks books are more dangerous than guns, and she's flippant about these things, you know what? The fact of the matter is that we've got some pretty sketchy books in our schools. And she made it clear that she thinks it's funny to make a mockery of this. That it's not, that these parents' concerns don't matter. In fact, went so far as to say, we want to empower children that have identity issues. Well, so much so that the Department of Ed is teaching teachers to go into the classroom, ask a child's gender, ask their pronouns, ask what name they want to use in the classroom, and then they're going to lie to the parents about it. And then they say, if the child is suicidal or considering harming someone else, we shouldn't tell the parents because the parents in this situation are the danger. Can you imagine my child is suffering with something, somebody knows that about my kid, and they're not going to tell me? No way.
No way.
They think this is so funny that I told a story. A few weeks ago, we had a rally, and someone from the Dearborn community showed up. And he told a story about the books that he found in the schools here. And he said, I'm a Democrat. I've been a Democrat my whole life. In fact, I've run for office as a Democrat. And he said, I'm so passionate about my politics, but there's nothing I'm more passionate about than my kids. He said, at the end of the day, my kids will always be first. And he said, I went to the Democrat elected officials because he'd been running, and he said, I said, this stuff is not okay. And they said, you're being a racist and a bigot. And he was shocked. He said, can you believe this? So I told this story, and Stephen Colbert picks it up. And they make this whole skit out of it. They play it on the air, and they make this whole skit about how this never happened. That's what he said. This story never happened. That's where the Democrats are right now. You don't exist. Your stories are not important. They refuse to believe that we are actually going across the state and listening. And so I want you to know that I realize that there are not necessarily Republicans or Democrats in this room, but I am listening to you. I want to listen to you. I want to take your concerns to Lansing, and I hope that you can trust me and that I can earn your vote. Just as important to me as my little girls. I want you to know that they will come first because there's so much more for them that we can do in the state. We can make sure that they have the skilled trades they need to learn or the college education that they're going for. We can make sure that they have the safe communities and that the police officers in their communities are supported. So important. That if our children one day want to become entrepreneurs in this state, that they don't have to go through a totally over-regulated system to try to do it. Right now, if you want to start a business in the state of Michigan, you have to have specialists. You have to be able to pay to get through the licensing process, the permitting process. When you see the automotive industry leaving, it's not because our incentives are not great. It's because the process beforehand is just too darn hard. And if it's too darn hard for Ford, imagine what it's like for the little guy that wants to build a business in his own community, and then add on to that someone that takes your livelihood away and shuts you down for 8 months at a time. We lost more restaurants, more small businesses than any other state, 3,000 restaurants, and I hear about restaurants every day that continue to shut down. Earlier this week, one in Detroit. A couple days ago, one in Spring Lake. No matter where I go, businesses have been crushed by this governor and the continued policies of the bureaucracy of going after small business owners. That is not going to happen in a Dixon administration. The American dream will return to this state and it will be yours for the taking. I want to make sure that we are able to do everything we can to get our kids back on track. I've heard her talk about this. You look at the surrounding states that had kids that were locked out for close to what we were locked out, like they were out for 60 days instead of 90. But surrounding states that were closed down for similar amounts of time, they already have tutoring programs in place. Michigan never did. So all of this talk means nothing unless we actually do something. I'll tell you one quick thing. When I came out of the primary, one of the reporters said to me, "There's no way you can do this. There's no way you can get the name ID that Gretchen Whitmer has." And I thought, Gretchen Whitmer has name ID across the whole state. They said, "How could you possibly get name ID?" And I said, "You know what? Pretty soon everybody in the state is going to know my name and Gretchen Whitmer's going to pay for it." So now we have this movement going on, and everywhere I go, if I go into a grocery store, if I go into a gas station, I have people that come up to me and they say, "I'm voting for you." And I always think in my head, it's so nice doing business with you, Gretchen. Because there really was no way for me to get my name ID up unless somebody was going to run commercials like 3 times every commercial cycle with me in them. So I appreciate that she did that, and I just want you to know that I would be so grateful to serve you. I am so grateful that you are all here tonight, that you invited me here to speak with you and talk to you and hear your concerns. I love your kids. I love you. I want to serve you, and I believe that we can make Michigan come back, and I believe that we can see a prosperous Michigan for our kids, and I want you to know that I will serve you well. God bless you, and God bless the beautiful